What do you get when you combine simplified practice marketing, proven ROI strategy, and Van skate shoes? You get Mark Thackeray, of course. So lace up, grab your green smoothie, and get ready, because this is Dental Marketing Secrets. And this is Mark.
All right, my friends, welcome back to another episode of the Dental Marketing Secrets podcast. How are you? I am so excited to be here with you today. I have a tremendous guest. Dr. Alun Rees joins me from across the pond. He's over in Ireland, and he is a business coach. But before that, Dr. Rees was an oral surgery resident. He started his career like that, and then he went on to be an associate in a range of different practices. So he has all this great experience. He goes on to later launch two practices in the space of 15 months during the wildest economic conditions. You've got to listen to this interview. He talks about it, and it's like the perfect storm of all these challenges. And I love that because it's a lot of people feel like they're up against the same thing right now. So pay attention to that. But after he did that, and after years of hard work building his practice, he eventually sold his dental business in 2005. And what's so great about Alun is that he has the background and experience that provides understanding of what you're going through. He knows what challenges you're up against, how many hats you have to wear, and he's created this framework for building a successful, thriving practice. There's 7 pillars. And we dive into some of those pillars. One of them is marketing, which of course, I love. But we get into marketing, we get into systems, we get into vision, and we get into environment. And you're going to love what he says on those. He has this unique ability to break things down into very simple, easy to understand terms. And Alun's been on, he's been featured. This is not his first time around. He's been featured on a lot of different media outlets, the BBC, Sky TV, different radio stations. But you're just going to love the way he approaches the management of your business. So without further ado, let's jump in and meet Dr. Alun Rees. All right, welcome to the show, Alun. So excited to have you all the way from Ireland too, no doubt. How is the weather over there? I forgot to ask you that.
The weather is very much December weather here in Ireland. We're down the southwest, the Atlantic's blowing lots of wind and lots of rain into us, but it's fine. We're happy.
Yeah. Well, and you said that you're stone's throw away from the shore. It sounds like, maybe 20, 30 meters or so.
Well, no, a little bit more, but
okay.
But not very far.
But you've got a good enough arm that you could hit it from.
Probably. Probably.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm so excited to have you on the show. So for those of you who don't know, Alun's a business coach. He has a lot of clinical experience as well. So I want you to, Alun, why don't you share your story a little bit and give some context of who you are, where you've come from, and what you're doing right now.
Okay, sure. I qualified as a dentist. It was all I wanted to do. Qualified as a dentist 42 years ago. It's hard to believe. It's really worrying that when you get to a point you think, hey, I've been involved in dentistry for nearly 50 years now. But hey, there you go. I'm still enjoying it in whatever form I do. So I qualified as a dentist. Did a number of different jobs. Thought I was perhaps at one point about having a career in surgery, and did hospital residencies and enjoyed that, but knew it wasn't really what I wanted to do. Then spent 7 years in a variety of associate posts in practice. And I always sum those up as finding out exactly how I didn't want to run my business. Right. And in 1988 and 89, I actually started 2 separate practices in the city of Gloucester, which is in the west of England. Mm. And you soon found out the realities of business life.
Yeah.
As ever, with most people who start a business, I found out the hard way. And so I went from everything being wonderful in a fairly short time to things not being that wonderful. And I woke up one day or one new year, it would have been the 1st of January 1991, and 3 years into practicing on my own, and I'm really at rock bottom. I had no home.
Yeah.
My wife had left, and and the bank were chasing me for money.
Yeah.
The UK had just gone into a deep recession, so interest rates were at a sky high. I was paying anything between 16% on my loans, extremely uncomfortable. And I realized that, I'd spent the previous perhaps 5-6 years really getting myself into clinical work, but not necessarily knowing anything about the running of a business. So I recognized it was time to do that properly. And I joined, eventually signed up, and I started on an MBA course with the Open University. The Open University is exactly what it sounds.
Yeah.
It isn't set in one place. It was done, if you like, on the airwaves. It was done on TV and so on. And it was great. I'd never completed that course, unfortunately, because my father got seriously ill thereafter. But it got me thinking about what it was I was doing with my practice. And I came up during that time with what I call the 7 pillars of a successful dental business. And it was just a way of categorizing the stuff you had to deal with in order to be a success. So instead of, as you know, stuff can come sometimes trying to run a business, a dental business. It's a bit like running into a blizzard, right? You've got all this stuff coming at you, and you know which box do you put it in? Whatever. And sometimes you get to the end of a day, the end of a week, the end of a month, the end of a year, and you're up to your waist or your chest in snow, effectively.
And most of that stuff you're not trained for.
Nope.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're lucky enough. Some people are lucky enough. They work in practices where the principal will share those things. But I think for the most part, they tend not to. Yeah. Dentists can tend to work very much in silos, and they're not that communicative because they're doing what dentists do, which is working with their patients and in mouths. So I came up with these 7 pillars of a successful dental business, and I marked those down as vision, financial controls, sales, marketing, people, systems, and environment. Now, some of these clearly overlap, but I just about got everything in those. Of course, there is an 8th thing, and that's the clinical work, but that isn't necessarily sometimes isn't the most important to delivering a successful business.
Well, let me stop you there too, Alun. So go deeper in that, because that's an interesting point. I think a lot of doctors feel like, well, if I'm good enough, people will just come. There's still some of that old mentality that, hey, my work's going to speak for myself, and so if I'm competent enough, then it's okay. People will come.
Well, what do we know? Every dentist has seen a patient whose mouth has been, I'm not going to use the word neglected, but perhaps not cared for as well as it could be for a long period of time, perhaps by a dentist who isn't too well or is running down towards retirement. And they say, oh, Dr. Smith is fantastic. Right. He never hurts me. He never does anything. And you know that Dr. Smith, bless him, has got this big vat of glass ionomer that he's hatching things up with. And yes, he isn't hurting the patient, but neither is he really addressing the patient's needs. Right. And the opposite of that is somebody who says, hey, I know what's best for this patient and I'm going to do it. Right. But the patient doesn't know why.
There's a huge gap.
So I don't think it's enough. And the one thing that people think they do far better than they actually do is to communicate with their patients and with their teams. Yeah. I don't believe that people communicate nearly as well as they would like to think that they did.
Right.
And sure, you can be the best oral technician if you like. You can have fabulous hands. Everything you do is absolutely precise. But if you're not a nice person, if the patient doesn't understand what's going on or why you're doing it, then you don't tend to build a practice.
Right.
Yeah.
That's such a key point. I love that. And let's pause here for a second, just because I think that's so critical, because it's not just the communication from, it's not just one directional communication where you're to the patient and that's it, but it's really more of a conversation. It's a dialogue. It's an ongoing, it's an ongoing conversation back and forth to understand each other, because you've got your clinical knowledge and expertise and you're seeing this, and you're translating that to the patient in terms that he or she can understand. I mean, if you're just, like you said, if you're just kind of saying, hey, I'm doing the right thing and I'm neglecting to share that in a proper way, then the patient is just wondering what's going on. Like, what are you doing to my mouth? But you need that understanding back and forth. And then it also extends to your team. And this is where I'm sure it'll factor into what you look at in terms of environment, and when you break that down into that pillar, but it's understanding, it's that whole seamless experience from, whether it's from you as a clinical provider or whether it's a team member, you're all on the same page with respect to the patient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And you've replied and knocked me totally off my stride, but you're absolutely right. It's got to be a two-way thing. There are two sorts of patient or two sorts of people who come to you for treatment. There are the ones that want a transaction. Hey, I want veneers. I want ortho. I want straight teeth. And they're the ones who knock you down. They'll look around for somebody who's doing the best deal. Yeah. And if you happen to be that's fine. But if you change, they'll find somebody else. Right. And those are transactional. They are just buyers. The one thing you need are people with whom you have a good relationship. And those are patients. These are people who trust you, will trust their children with you, will send their friends to see you. Sure, they may take a little while to understand fully how you are and what you're working at. But once you've got them, they won't go anywhere else. Those are fantastic, and they get it. That's why I'm not a great fan of you should be expecting to earn 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 from every new patient. It's not how my life worked, and my practice was pretty successful. Eventually. Yeah.
Well, and that's important that's an important mindset shift, I think, for a lot of practices, a lot of providers. Because I see, as a marketing consultant for practices, I get a lot of doctors that just want new patients, it's all about the numbers. It's, hey, get me new patients. And I constantly try and educate them on, just like what you said, Alan, it's okay. And I love how you categorize them too. You've got the buyers that are very transactional in nature. They're just looking for what they want at the best price, and that's it. They have no loyalty really to any practice. And then you have those that you build a relationship with for life. Those that are really your ideal patient, in the sense that you can deliver the best results for them. You can develop that relationship with them because of your personality, because of your approach, because of the team that you've assembled. And those are the ones that are going to be with you long term. And like you said, they'll send their kids, they'll send their friends, they'll send their coworkers. And that's, to me, it takes a little bit more time to build that relationship and that rapport and earn that trust. But the long-term results of that are far outweigh any immediate gains that you get from those other type of transactional new patients.
Absolutely. You can only build a practice one patient at a time. You can only change minds one patient at a time. And that's how you do it. And it's far more satisfying.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Is there, I'm sure you have a lot of those type of discussions where you're trying to help them catch that vision. What's kind of the holdup you feel like for a lot of dentists that maybe still have that older mindset or the transactional mindset? How do you get them to make that shift and see the light?
I basically say to them, let's go back to that. You're talking about people wanting more and more and more new patients. And I've come across this with people who've spent a lot of money buying a practice and then want more and more new patients. So I said, well, hang on, you paid a lot of money for goodwill.
Yeah.
What happened to all those patients whose files you've got here? Oh, well, they don't want what I got to give. I said, well, you've got a dental degree and you've got hands. Right. What don't they want? Oh, well, they like Mr. So-and-so, Dr. So-and-so. And I will quite often say, look, I know you're a big marketing man, but I say don't spend a penny on marketing until you've looked at what you've got already. Yeah, and if 100%. Don't focus on getting hundreds more in when you've got thousands already here that aren't coming in. And that's that. I have a thing about treating every old patient, every existing patient, every 2, maybe 3 years, treating them as if they were new to you. Mm. Because there is an old phrase about familiarity breeds contempt. Yes. And, you get used to seeing Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Jones, and how you doing? Oh, I'm fine, because nobody's going to come in and say, "Hey, I'd really like a root canal today, please." Or I'd like you to do some work. They want you to hear, "Hey, you're looking great." Right. Yeah, but sometimes you've got to say to them, "Hey, you know something? Since we first saw you, have you seen this machine we've got?" No, what does that do? Do you know we do whitening? We move teeth without putting braces on. Right. We can do this. We can help people have great smiles. And they said, "Wow, no, I didn't know that." Mm-hmm. And they'll say, "Well, it's not something I'd like, but hey, my daughter's getting married in 2 years, and she really hates. Could you do this for her?" Yeah. And she's a patient of yours, and you're thinking, yeah, why didn't I suggest? So, because you go all out to make a big impression with a new patient, don't forget there are other people who may have said, well, I'm not sure if I want that now, and you've said, well, they don't want it at all. Yeah. Again, this comes to a relationship thing, because nobody leaps into a dental chair and says, yeah, I want loads of dentistry. Yeah, give it all. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Come on. Let's. I can't wait. For you to prove how good you are. Hey, that molar with seven different root canals. I want you to find them. And all those things. Because that's not how they perceive it. Right. My point is about going back and checking in with your patients on a regular basis and informing them, so then they can go out and inform other people. Right. Hey, I've just come from the dentist. He's got this machine. Did you know they do this now? Yeah. No, I don't want it, but somebody might. Right. And it's that long-term mode of thinking where it's, hey, I'm here for the relationship. And as long as they're coming back and I can, they're having a good experience, those things that come up, they're going to come to me. Mean, we'll treat them as they come. I'm not pushing. I don't have an agenda. I'm not trying to, exact so much money from this particular patient by this date. It's really about doing things for the right reasons, it sounds like. And then everything just falls into place. Yeah. It works. Yeah, it works. And, that's my experience and my clients' experiences. Well, and I would second that too. I mean, I do get quite a few
prospective clients and clients that come to me and say, yeah, I want new patients. But then once we sit down and analyze the practice and see, hey, you're sitting on 3,000 past patients that, a good percentage of which you haven't seen in the last 18 months. Why don't we focus our efforts on those? You already have the relationship. You already have the sunk costs to acquire those patients absolutely. In the past. And they likely have treatment that it needs to be met as well, in addition to just a cleaning or, so. Yeah, I mean, it's some of them are kind of taken aback when I explain that to them, but the reality is, if you can shift that just a couple of percentage points, then your profitability goes skyrocket.
And it doesn't take a huge amount. The difference between just about surviving and doing very well isn't that big.
Yeah.
And most of it's in between the ears.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. That's a conversation I would love to have at some point is what goes on between the ears? What is your mindset? How to have that success mindset? So we'll maybe table that, but let's maybe come back later. I love that. So Alun, you put together these, these 7 pillars to really help you organize and decode what you need to be done with your practice. Yeah. So what is that, when someone adopts that mindset, what shifts for them? How do things change for them once they see, they see the framework, they get it, and they start applying that? What does it look like?
Well, they're then able to see things in different boxes. Okay, they're all linked, but they're able to see. So for instance, if I sit down with a client and say, okay, where do you want to be? Tell me what you want. Right. Because a lot of dentists practice dentistry reactively.
Yes.
And I'll say, how do you want your practice to look? How do you want it to be? How many days a week do you want to work?
Right.
If you only want to work 4 days a week chairside, 5 or 3 days a week chairside. My last conversation today was with 2 new clients, husband and wife, and they're aiming at working 3 days a week each.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. I said, well, that's effectively 6 days of a dentist.
Yeah.
So you should be okay, but it's, getting them into that mode. Yeah. And so you need a vision. You need to know where you're going.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people, because dentistry has for many years been a reactive thing. You have dental chair, patient comes indoor, patient says, I have pain, I have broken something, or I think I might have disease, and you look for disease. Now, the ideal is, a stable-ish number of patients you look after.
Right.
So, and also then you can stage treatment with them, instead of doing things, you can say, well, one of the, all of us don't want to be told now you need $20,000 worth of treatment.
No.
But if you say, look, I think we're looking at things. I think it was a chap, Paul Homily. Do you know? Yeah. But I heard, I had some CDs that somebody gave me of him. And he said he came up with this thing about, you drop hints with people as you go, and eventually you say, hey, I think it's time. In my experience is you start dropping hints. Look, we're going to have to look at, maybe doing some crowns here at some point, and so on. And the patient comes in and says, when do we start?
Yeah.
In 6 months' time. Are we ready now?
And okay, interesting.
Yeah. So you're able to sort of control the flow, but you need to know what you want to get out of dentistry.
Yeah.
And
that's got to be that first step, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Because I noticed that on the framework, that the vision, is in the first place. And I just knew that it had to be the first one.
Absolutely.
And like you said, a lot of dentists are reactive, though. They maybe have a number in their head, of how much they'd like to earn in a year. But beyond that, they don't really have the details of what that vision really looks like on a day-to-day basis. So you're suggesting, okay, let's take a minute, let's take some time and really flesh that out. Let's look at how many days am I going to be working? What type of, even would you go as far as, what type of work am I going to be doing?
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing having a focus on what do you want to do, cosmetic work, if you want to do things around perio or maybe surgery, as long as you realize that the smaller you make your niche, the more the wider you have to throw your net to fill that.
Right.
But there's, and again, I try and get people to look 3, 4, 5 years ahead.
Yes.
This is and set. What do you want?
Yeah.
And quite often people say, I don't know what I want, but I know I don't want this.
Yeah.
Again, when people seek out a coach, they're quite often, they've either reached a plateau or they're at a crossroads or they've run into a wall.
Right.
And I don't know what I want, but I know I don't want what I've got.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's kind of like your experience initially where you had some different things and you just realized, okay, I know that those aren't the answer for me.
That's right. I got to take this seriously. And I worked, in those days, did I work with a coach then? I don't think it did, but shortly afterwards. And then I leaned on a lot of people I knew and listened to a lot of people who were working in other businesses as well. Yeah. That which helped me a great deal. I also realized that I thought my problems were bad, but they weren't as bad as a lot of others.
Isn't that interesting how that happens once you really open your eyes and look around?
I had control. I knew I was fortunate. I could dig my way out, if you like. I don't like using the word dig, but I could go into the practice, work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and eventually turn a corner. But that's not how I wanted to spend my life. But you're fortunate in dentistry. You could.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So you have the vision, and then you basically work back. Do you? I mean, a lot of people will talk about, hey, reverse engineer the process. Let's work back. But then you start getting into some of the other pillars. From that, or does the vision dictate what you do? I'm guessing the vision dictates what you do in the other sections.
Absolutely, because they are all there to serve. To serve the direction you want to take. Now, the next one's finances. Far too many dentists still hope that the money doesn't run out before the month runs out.
Right.
And it does amaze me that they get, whenever they get their big payment in for the month or whatever, they're still ready to tighten their belt before it arrives. And that's called hand to mouth,
right.
And it's no way to run a professional business. No. And quite often they will know things aren't right, but will put their head in the sand and hope everything comes up. Whereas if you, and I'll say to owners, well, okay, how are your finances looking? And they'll say, well, I've got last year's accounts.
Right.
So, well, last year, what you're going to tell me? So, say if they tax you quite often, if your tax year ends at the end of the year, which a lot of businesses do, doesn't in the UK. That's different. They're out there. And but what you're telling me is you've got these accounts that were prepared until last December, so I can see what you did last January and February, but I don't know what you did last week.
Right.
And right. Okay. So, and you should be able to see where the money's going and where it's coming from, and not only look backwards, but look ahead. So budgeting is hugely important, and just plan things. And funnily enough, I was taught this by my staff.
Oh yeah,
I was lucky enough to have a couple of very switched on nurses, stroke front desk, and they just said, "Well, okay, well, this is what we're going to do." So I gave all the ordering to one of them, and she just grew.
Right, just blossomed.
And that was fantastic. So you just need to make your finances work. Also, you've got to be honest with yourself and say, am I spending more than I earn?
Right. That's a big one.
Human nature is human nature. And okay, what can I spend and how much can I take out?
Right.
Because if you're not doing that, you just get into a cycle of over borrowing, and then you're not putting money aside to pay tax, and then you're starting to use credit cards to pay things, and it gets deeper and deeper.
Yeah, it gets in a world of hurt real quick. Yeah, if you're not taking care of that, because any stroke of bad luck at that point can really send you into a bad spot.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, talk to us a little bit too, Alan, about, so I want to jump in marketing because I love that topic, of course, but I also wanted to touch on, so marketing, systems, and then the environment, because I think all those three really play well together. But let's touch on marketing for a second and how that fits into your framework. Okay.
There is one thing I try and do with people is to keep things as simple as possible.
Yeah.
Just so... And I'll say, so what? Tell me why you need marketing. I'll ask the question. Because I read a big article about it, and because so down the roads, and I say, okay, but for what reason?
Yeah.
Well, I want new patients. Okay. And it comes down to, I've forgotten the guy's name, John Jansch. Mm-hmm. John Jansch's book about, his books about marketing was basically find a need and fill it. And, find people who have a need, fill that need, ask them to send people they know who also have that need. Yep. And so I will say to people, don't spend anything on marketing until you've done as much as you can without spending anything on marketing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm great at asking people, certainly in the majority of dental practices, of asking people to send people they know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because before you've got to have a website in this day and age. You've got to spend money on that. But in the same way as you used to have to be in Yellow Pages. Do you remember that?
I do.
You're older than you look. But, yes, you do need marketing, but marketing is a state of mind. Mm-hmm. So every time you are dealing with a patient who's in front of you, you must be thinking, who else have you got at home?
Right. Yeah.
Who else is there at home? Hey, we see you, and you've talked about your husband, but I've never met him. And okay, you say you've got 3 children. I've seen one of them. Right. What are the other 2 doing?
Yeah.
And you say you're going to, and so on. So you start filling, you start with one and you just draw lines from them.
Yeah.
And who are your friends? What else do you do? Where do you work? And knowing more and more about your patients means you are more and more open to them sending people they know.
Right.
One of the things I do about asking people to send people they know is dentists won't do it because they feel it sounds needy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And they say, well, I can't do that. It sounds as if I'm desperate.
Yeah.
Say, well, try this. Mrs. Harris, you've been coming to see us for 3 years now, and everything's gone really well. We sorted out that root canal and the crown the first time we saw you. You've been coming back. You've been seeing the hygienist routinely. You seem very happy with everything. Is that right? Yeah, that's great. So one of the joys of modern dentistry is because we work preventively. They like this. We are able to look after more patients than we used to in the past, because most of your patients think you are absolutely jam solid booked, because how many times does a patient say to a dentist, Are you taking on new patients? Do you have any space to see my sister or my brother or my husband? Oh yeah, of course. Oh, thank you. So all you're doing is asking them, and you say, look, if there's anybody that you know would benefit from the type of dentistry we do here, would you be kind enough to give them one of our referral cards? That's it. I was taught that, 20, 25 years ago, and it's so simple. And that costs the cost of a card. What's that? And they like you doing it, or the majority of patients like you doing it. You've enrolled them in your team.
Yeah.
And you're asking them a favor. And they think that, it's a compliment to them. They like it.
And that's the important thing to remember, is that it's when they see that as it's a compliment to them. And it's also, they like to be the person that people go to for recommendations. They like to give that offering up because it makes them feel good. That's what drives a lot of the referrals, is they like to be the person that has all the connections.
Yes. Yeah, quite. And we all do. Somebody, and they say, oh, the transmission's gone on my van or whatever. Hey, go and see my man.
Yeah.
Tell him I sent you.
I know. Yeah.
You feel great. And it's not a matter of, because then some dentists will say, oh, do I have to give a reward to the person? No. If you want to do anything, pick up the phone and thank them, or even write to them.
Yeah.
What is a note that says, I saw your friend Mrs. So-and-so today. Thank you ever so much. It's for thinking of us. Wow.
I know. When have you ever gotten a note like that from a dentist or a doctor?
Yeah. Little things.
I know. Well, and I love what you said too, Alun, about you kind of framed that really well. So I want you to say that again. So when you were talking about, hey, we've gotten really good at preventive dentistry, so we're able to see more patients. How did you frame that? Frame that again. Say that again.
Okay, so we're talking to Mr. Davis. Hey, Mr. Davis, you've been coming to see us now 5 years? And you remember we first time you came, you had that we needed to do a root canal and had to take that difficult tooth out, and then we did all the things with where you went to see the hygienist, and you've been coming back regularly, and everything's nice and stable now. So that's great. So I guess as you come back, you're fairly happy with the way we do things. Now, if they say no, you think, well, but it's a question they're bound to say yes. And you say, well, look, one of the great things about modern dentistry is that because we work preventively, that, hence the sessions with the hygienist, we're able to look after more patients than we used to in the past. Because once we get you stable, then you should hopefully stay stable.
Yeah.
And so that means we could look after more people. Now, would you do me a favor? We don't tend to advertise much, but we ask our patients to refer their friends, their family, or their colleagues.
Right.
If I were to give you 2 or 3 of our referral cards, and you think anybody would benefit from the way we do dentistry here, would you share it with them?
Right.
And again, it's of course, and that happens. It's not needy. You're getting people to join your gang. You are recruiting them to join your gang. And I think that works.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's such a power, because we all know the power of referrals. They're those that tend to trust you more. They negotiate less. They are, are generally more compliant. And so if you can, add that to your systems, which is kind of where I wanted to go next too, is just making this. And I love how you said it's really a mindset. It's an adoption of a mindset. So you're with a patient and you're caring about them, obviously, and you're wanting to find out more about who they are and their family. But that also leads to marketing opportunities. But that's all part of, I'm guessing, a system that you're following. Yeah. So let's touch on systems for a little bit.
basically the system, unfortunately, in recent years, certainly on this side of the Atlantic, systems have been rather taken over by compliance, but my thing about systems is, how do we do things here? How do we do things here? And this started off with presuming that every nurse knew everything about what I did.
Right.
Well, of course, it's not the case. So, hey, we need to. So, and then we need to work out what happens. What happens to avoid confusions? Well, let's all get clear about what we're trying to do. So, the systems. You can imagine if you. At one point, when I started my first practice, it was in a little shop unit. It had been a shop, and I had this idea of opening several dental practices that had 2 surgeries. So one for a dentist, one for a hygienist, and one room that would be taken for looking after children. So doing preventive work with children. Yeah. And I could see this. It didn't happen because, it didn't happen. But what I wanted to do was roll out that model. So what happens with McDonald's? You buy a McDonald's franchise. They send you to McDonald's University and they give you the book. Yeah. And they say, whatever you do, don't do anything different from the book.
Right.
Because that works. So that's what effectively we wrote our own book. When I got into a position with my main practice, we wrote the book and we sat down and wrote it. And what used to happen was I would talk to the team. What works? What works? What language do we use with patients? How do we answer the phone? And that we just extended it and extended it and extended it. So much so, so and it also worked in clinical work.
Yeah.
So if you ever watched me with any of my nurses, you'd swear we were dancing.
Yeah.
They knew what I needed next. And that's because we practiced, we rehearsed, and we rehearsed difficult conversations with people. We tell me about let's say to the front desk, tell me about the worst telephone call you had today. And why was it so bad? And how could we do it better? And what can we say? And are you happy having to deal with those? And if not, how can we deal with them better? And we just wrote it all down and wrote it all. And it just grew and grew and grew. So we have this, we call it a practice manual. Yeah. That everything was the same. So, and it just worked. We for instance, this is going back to the days pre-computers. We had, these cards, notes, and we never lost a set of notes in 15 years. Wow. The reason was we did not file them alphabetically. Okay.
Which doesn't make a ton of sense. I mean, if you're thinking about it, you're like, what?
No, it doesn't, except what we did was I think we had a database from 1990, but we gave everybody a number and we filed them numerically. And every so often we would go through them, 2-3 times a year and say, well, we haven't seen this person. What's happened to the recall? Why not? And we just didn't lose notes. The notes had to be somewhere. They could only be in one of 4 places.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But that worked. So, and the same went for the way we did our financial reporting. This is what we do at the end of the day. Yeah. I had one front desk person who we went to see a guy, chap from Seattle, James. Anyway, can't remember. Great speaker. He'd been a basketball coach, an Olympic basketball coach, Ken James, and and he about 2 weeks later, I took this team member Max with me, and I noticed this was the pre-computer days, so we used to have an appointment book, and I'd say, "What have you written what have you written at the bottom of the page? And it was clear she'd been writing something in pencil, rubbing it out and writing something new there. And she said, oh, that's how much you're going to gross that day. I said, wow. She said, well, weren't you listening to Ken James? Because I was. Okay. And those systems and it meant that I never got overloaded with things.
Right.
And they understood me, they understood the way I wanted to do things. We would split things up into sessions. We would only see children in sessions and so on. So that was the systems. And and everything was recorded, everything was written down. And it sounds overly bureaucratic, but it never was.
No, it's so liberating because you allow the system to carry the load.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's, I actually understood that the first time when I read the E-Myth. Have you ever read that with Michael?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Phenomenal book because of this principle right here. And I love, I can't remember if it's there, but with McDonald's, that's a great example because they've got it so dialed in. It's not about, it's not about delivering the best hamburger. We all know that they don't do that. No. But the reason they're so successful is because of their systems, because they deliver the same experience every time.
Yeah. I read a big interview with the current head because they've got problems at the moment, haven't they? They sacked one guy and so on. But I read an interview in the Financial Times recently with the guy who's taken over, who eats McDonald's 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Bless him.
That's funny. But I just love that concept because you're really offloading all this onto your system, and then it makes it easier to plug people in too, because now they have clear directions on what needs to be done and what their role is in that function. And so it does take a little bit of time to set that up and to think that through. And I think but it's so worth the effort, because then allows you to stay seamless in delivering a very consistent patient experience, which is, again, that's what people want in the end. They just want to know what to expect when they come.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And, it works. It works. Yeah. Okay. So what do we do? Environment.
Let's talk environment.
Yeah. Well, the environment is an odd thing, because you tend to think, well, that's a physical environment, which it is, and I'll say to people, what does your practice look like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? What does it sound like? Because the classic thing, when I sold my practice, which was a fairly small setup, the guy who bought it insisted on working with the door to the operatory open.
Okay.
So he's in there with suction and handpiece going, and people listening to this, and it's. But there we go. You go. But it is. What does it look like? And one of the things when I engage with a new client is I will say, I want you to get the youngest member of your team or the newest member of your team to go outside your building, go across the road. I want them to take photographs or a video of what your premises look like to somebody else. Yeah. And then come in, and get them to take photographs at close-ups of doors and wood, and lie back in a chair, look at the ceiling, and look at things from odd angles, stand on a chair and look down on places, and you will be horrified at what you will see. That bit of wall where something was chipped 2 years ago, but you haven't actually painted it again, and you will start see things from a different point of view. So there's that's the sort of the physical environment, but this also overlaps into a cultural thing.
Yes.
And how do people talk to each other? Mm-hmm. How do people talk with each other? Again, some of the things I do, if I'm working with a new client, I will go and sit where their patients sit for an hour, just to see how things work.
Yeah.
And you will pick up all manner of things that just the noise the telephone makes,
right?
And the way people deal with things, and you will get all that. And there's almost and the atmosphere, if you like, comes down from above. And there's a lot of talk these days about culture in businesses, and that shows itself from the way people behave towards each other, towards their patients, and so on. One of the practices I worked in as an associate was a nice building, purpose-built place, but there were two people who worked at the front desk who used to speak as if nobody the other side of the front desk could hear them.
Right.
It's astonishing. And there were, we had 5-6 surgeries there. And so there'd be perhaps 20 people waiting.
Right.
And they would be talking about somebody, as if they couldn't be overheard. They're talking about one of the dentists, one of the patients, somebody who, it was a neighborhood practice. So
Makes you cringe.
Yeah, it does. And yet they felt they could. So they did. And they were not, it comes into, the empathy thing and so on. But the environment is a huge thing. And this going back to, I'll go backwards to the systems. One of the things that patients, of course, you say something to a patient and when they're sitting in a chair and they come out and they can't remember anything.
Yeah.
And not everybody's got a dedicated treatment coordinator. So they ask the person at the desk, what do they mean? And if they don't know, if they can't speak, if they can't translate dentist to English,
right,
then things get dropped. So the patient arrives, don't know what they're coming in for the next time, don't know how long they'll be there, and so on.
It leads to so much confusion and ultimately, even some distrust because they're not sure what's going on. They're thinking, oh, well, are they really here for my care and my treatment, or are they just trying to make a buck? So
absolutely, are they just processing me to get the money from whatever?
Yeah,
and to a certain extent, in every business, you are processing things. You are putting things on a conveyor belt, but the conveyor belt is, in a dental practice, should be lined with fur, and they don't know. The movement is so gentle, they don't know they're being carried. That's fine.
Yeah, I love that. I love that analogy. Yeah. Well, hey, Alan, this has been an awesome conversation.
We have gone on, haven't we? Yeah.
No, I almost knocked my mic over, but I love how it went. There's so many things here that I feel like we could unpack and go deeper and deeper, but we'll call it a day for this one. I would love to have you back and even go deeper on some of these if you wouldn't mind.
I'd be delighted. Thank you, Mark. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah. So if people are interested in getting in touch with you, Alan, learning more about what you do, what's the best way to do that?
You can look me up, and that's Alun Rees, Alunrees. That's Welsh. And Google me or Google the dentalbusinesscoach.co.uk or even dentalbusinesscoach.com, I think. But hey, my name usually shows me.
Oh, that'd be great. Well, I'll put that up in the show notes too. And I know you have some great resources on the site. I've been there before. You've got kind of an analysis, like an evaluation, how the pulse of your practice that people can take.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of good information there. Yeah.
There'll be more soon. I'm using this lockdown for doing more of those things.
Yes. Well, again, Alan, you've been terrific. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise.
It's been a great pleasure, Mark. Thank you for inviting me. And
we'll talk to you soon.
I hope to welcome you to Ireland someday.
Oh, I'll be there. Yeah, we're coming. I'll bring the kids and we'll take a tour. Yeah. Oh, I love it. I'm English. Yeah, my ancestors English, so I need to go back there.
Whereabouts? Do you know?
You had to ask me that.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'll look it up and let you know. Yeah. But it's I know we've got some Scottish, but mostly English. I'll find out the specifics and let you know. But it's a place that I've always wanted to go. It's on my list.
When this madness is over. Hey, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, It's good to meet you.
Okay.
And thank you very much again for the invitation.
It's been a pleasure.
Did you enjoy this episode of the Dental Marketing Secrets Podcast? Head on over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. And for more proven marketing strategies to grow your practice, visit practicerocket.net.